Hebada Zamancha. It's your boy, African King Darius. And today I'm here with a special recording for today's youth. You know, I've had my fair share of speaking to the youth. I've spoken at my church to the young adult ministry. I've spoken to and mentored some kids at my college where I currently was and still actually am. I did do a tutoring session up there with, a guy that was younger than me. I've, you know, I've worked in child settings where I was working in child care environments. Like I've worked child care for about a total of 5 years, and that's including teaching. I've taught for 5, and I worked in daycare for about 2. I know my way around a classroom, so I've had my fair share of talking with the young people. One thing that I keep noticing is a run-of-the-mill theme with them. Each and every one of them need a person or need someone to be their voice. Because today, society is not going to listen to the mouth of a young person. They are not going to even think this young person may be onto something. Anybody that is 30 years and older will not take time out of their life to talk to someone 20 and younger or 18 and younger. There's an attack on our youth. The same way there's an attack on African Americans. So often we only fixate on looking at things from a racial standpoint that we don't stop and think to ourselves, what's happening to our youth? Our black youth, our white youth, our foreign youth, youth from foreign countries, are all being attacked. And no one's saying or doing anything. So today I have a special message to the adults from our youth. This recording today is going to help explain what some of our youth feel and think about today's society. Now, I've talked to a lot of people. I've had some time to speak to some young people today. And I'm telling you, it's not like they're 100% happy. And I know, adults, we're like, oh, young people complain about everything. Okay, but you were young once. And in a couple of minutes, I'm going to disagree with myself with what I just said. And the only reason I say that is because this recording today is going to really hit home for a lot of you. So, I'm entitling this one Childish Thinking. You know, we've all been young once. Each and every one of us have all been children. But the thing is, not every single last person on this earth, childhood is the same as someone else's. I grew up in the slums of the ghetto, down near Park Heights, Denmore and Garrison. That area was riddled with drugs. The apartment complex where we used to live was torn down, completely demolished. The first home my mother and my father ever got is gone. Never to be seen again. There's still abandoned apartments around there. Areas where the city said they're going to straighten that out. And there's people living in those abandoned homes. Man, it's sad. It really is. Your childhood may be different than mine. From there, we moved to another ghetto neighborhood. We traded one ghetto for another. This one wasn't as ghetto. I mean, where we used to live at, my father used to have to beat people out of the house just to keep from climbing in through the bathroom window because they were trying to get into the apartment complex but couldn't get in there because they were looking for somebody. So they come running through my parents' apartment just to try to get into the complex and look for a dude and kill him. Now, where we moved to was not as bad, but it was still bad. We moved to Pimlico Road, and now around there, all you hear is a rat-a-tat-tat-tat at 9 p.m. Me and my brother were so used to hearing it that we knew that that was the time for us to go to sleep. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat. All right, bro. It's 9 o'clock. We got to go to bed. We got to go get up for school tomorrow. The school where me and my brother attended was literally right in front of the house. So we were responsible for getting ourselves to school. We could open up the door, walk down the street, and we right there at the school. Right next to the school was an indoor pool. Well, it's now an indoor pool. And then from there is, of course, my favorite. Of course, it's my favorite corner store where I used to know the owner, man. It's like family. And when he passed, it hurt me. Didn't hurt my parents. It hurt me, though. Because the man was like a father to me. My childhood may be different than yours. You may have grew up in the suburbs, surrounded by white folk, where every day was glitz and glam. Where your identity may have been stricken and you don't even realize you were black. I don't know. Again, everyone's childhood is completely different. But that goes with that understanding that the truth of the matter is all of us are different. We're all different. Nobody is the same as anybody else on this earth. Let me tell you this now. Just because you may find somebody that look like somebody don't necessarily mean that they are like that person. I've had a lot of people who say I look like Usher. I take the daggone compliment, but my name ain't Usher Raymond. And I daggone sure don't have Usher Raymond money. I've seen people who dress up and try to look like these celebrities. But you're not the celebrity. Everybody's childhood is completely different. I'm not here to compare childhoods and say whose childhood was worse. But today's society and today's youth are being brought up in some of the same pain that we all went through. This is to not say that some of these young kids' parents are not doing the best they can, because trust me when I say, some of these kids that I do know, their parents are trying their damn hardest. But for what? A government that doesn't even give a damn about them. A government that doesn't give a damn about their kids. And a government that's not even willing to even bat an eyelash at. Today's youth are suffering. There's not many rec centers. There's not many places for these kids to go. So where do they have to go? They have to turn to the streets. I can say for myself, when I was young, the streets almost had me at a really young age. The streets almost had me. But a swift kick in the behind and a butt whooping on a daily basis changed my mind. My mother and my father loved me dearly. Granted, they had to work like every day. But boy, did they wear my little tail out. The streets didn't get me until I was a little bit older. I hear about some of the things that other people are complaining about, that they say they went through and stuff like that. And every day I'm just reminded of how special every day that you're alive truly is. And you should be glad that you have another day to live. Because if you didn't, you probably would be dead right now. And you probably would be asking yourself, what have you done with your life? There are people now who I can actually say are just sitting on their behinds waiting for death to come. And there are people today who are actually trying. I'm one of them. I came from all that. I came from all of that hatred, that bitterness, that anger. I came from all that. And I chose to do something with myself. My life became worth living. Why? Because I knew if I did not start trying in life, then I was only kidding myself. Today's youth really don't have a venue for anything. And it's the older generation's fault. And the reason why I say it's the older generation's fault, because I fall in that same category, it's our fault because we're not doing anything. We're being selfish, wanting to hog things up to ourselves and not thinking about the next generation. We want what's best for us. What's best for us. We as a society are selfish. We really are. We only think about ourselves, and we don't think about how the decisions we're making are affecting these young kids today. There's a lot of these young youth who want to hold hope that things are going to get better someday. I look at how some of the youth are being treated today, and it hurts my heart. Because with my son getting close to that age group, I ask myself, is this what the world is going to do to my son? Is this how they're going to treat him? Where are the programs for him? Where's all the money that's supposed to be put into his schools? This is what the world going to do to my son? Treat him like that? See, the problem about it is we're too busy paying for AARP and we're too busy paying for Medicare. We're too busy shuffling money into the behinds of people who already should have had their lives together. Why are we giving these elderly people more money when they already should have had money saved up by this time? And don't get me with that bull crap. Well, things got expensive for them too, because they had something called retirement plans. They had something called pensions and 401ks. They had that. Today's youth, there are no more pensions. There are no more 401k plans that are really that good. They would have to save up money, and they couldn't touch it until they were 90. They can't touch it until they're 90. So don't get me with that. Because I can do you some math. If a elderly person was to save up their money, and I mean the bulk of their money, from the time that they were first able to start touching it, and let's say if the person was born and raised in the 50s, let's go from 1950, right? If they don't really start getting a lot of money until they hit the age of 18. So if you're born from 1950, you won't be able to touch it real money until 1968. Until 1968. But by that time, being as how cheap everything was, you still would have been able to save up money because you get something called, favors from people. Your parents give you money for doing chores, stuff like that. You get money. Back then, you daggone sure did. So, if they would have, let's say, just as a kid, they touch, bless you. They touch, bless you. They get maybe $20 from their parents. Because back then, $20 could get you a lot. They get $20 from their parents. And back then, you had $20 to spare. As cheap as everything was, you had $20 to spare. So let's say they save up that $20.
What's over there?
Let's say they save up that $20. From 1958, right? That means you're 8 years old. And let's say from then on you collect $20. And you save that $20 up from 1958 all the way to 1968. So that's a good hot 10 years, right? So you do 20 times 10. You saved up $200 by that time. That's getting $20 every day. So actually, technically, my math is off. So let's say you got $20 almost on a daily basis every time you did chores. Let's say every 2 or 3 days, right? So for 3 days, that's 20, 40, that's already 60. So you got 60 for just those 3 days. Then the next week, you get another 60. So let's add another 60. That's 120. Then the day after that, the 3 more days after that, you get another 60. That's 180. So you multiply that 60 times 10. No, you take that, that's 60, and you multiply that times 10. You saved up $600. That's exactly accurate. You saved up $600 by 10 years from then. $600. And now you're 18 years old, right? You can touch that 600. That's your money. Now you're going to work and you're working a job, right? A paperboy route used to get you anywhere between $5 to $6 an hour, okay? And let's say you did maybe 10, 15 hours at most, right? So you do $6 an hour times 15. You made $90 a day. A day. And let's say that little paperboy route ran you every day, Monday through Friday, and you had weekends off. That's now 90 times 5. That's $450. Now add that $450 to that $600. You just got 1,000. You just made 1,000 right there. Now, if you're smart enough to continue to save up that money, by the time you hit the ripe old age, now that's 1,000 right there. Now imagine how much that would be if you get all the way to the age of 30. Now let's go 18 to 18 is, let's see, 36. So let's say 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So that's going to be 12 years, right? So 12 years, you continue to do that same route and add to that money. Now you got 1,050, and you continue to add your little $90 that you're getting every day to that, right? So you did 1,050 times 12. That's 12 years. You just saved up $12,000. $12,000. $12,600. Now you have that, and now you're at the age of 30. Okay? Now you get married, you meet a woman, she got a job, you went to school, now things are starting to become better in the economy, minimum wage went up, now you're not making $6 an hour no more, now you're making $750. Okay, so let's say you're making $750. You don't work at the paperboy job no more, and you still work. You work the paperboy job, but it's not like that. Now instead, you delivering it in a car. Okay, you delivering it in a car. Pretty expenses for gas. The company, makes you responsible for the gas, but the car they provide you. You just take the newspapers and shuffle them out in the neighborhoods. Okay? And you making $7.50 an hour becomes a full-time job with full-time benefits. And there's health care, all that good stuff. They take care of all of that. So that $12,600 that you saved up gets multiplied. Now you meet a woman. She got a full-time job. Her full-time job, she works at a desk. She making, almost $25,000, $26,000 annually. She making about $26,000 to the amount that you make on a daily basis, and you add that to the $12,600 you have. Y'all both got $38,600 by the end of that year. Now, peradventure that she or you, on the other hand, again, you got child expenses and stuff like that. All that is semantics. All that honestly takes care of itself, if you want to be honest, from then until the 60s. Now, from the 60s over until the 70s, if you want to talk about 12 years, by 1968, you're already 18. So then, if you're already 18, 68, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 1980. And you're 30. Now you get to your 40s. That's another 10 years from that. So if by 1980, you already now 32 years old, at another 10 years, now 1990, you're 42. 1990, you're 42. You're 42. So, minimum wage has definitely gone up. Now it's $8 an hour, $8.50. You're making more. Hopefully, with all that money that you just had between you and this woman, y'all been able to set a life up with each other, that you did something smart and decided to go get an education. Back then, there were Pell Grants and programs that could pay for you to get an education. So school kind of paid for itself, especially if you were considered low income. There were Pell Grants and programs you can get on. Then when you fill out your FAFSA form, you got to go to school for free. So, you get a degree. You get a full-time job. Now, this full-time job, you're making at least $10 to $11 an hour in 1990. You're making $11 an hour. And you're working full-time. That's 40 to 45 hours a week. Let's say you did 45, right? Now, already together, y'all by that time saved up $38,600. Well, no, you actually saved up more than that because that's $38,600 times 10. Y'all saved up $386,000. Now, so you got $386,000 saved up by that 10 years. Now, mind you, that's money coming back from state taxes. All of that didn't get factored into there. My point is, back then, there was always a way for you to have money and a way for you to save up money. Nowadays, it costs just to have a daggone savings account. Back then, the banks weren't adding on a $5 tax or a $5 fee for every savings account. It's bad enough now. I remember back in the day, the bank I used to be at, or the bank I'm at, used to have a free college checking account. Now they don't. They don't have a free college checking no more. So if you're a college student busting your hump, they don't care. If you are a young youth, if you're a young person trying your best to fit in this society that literally is making itself more available for those who are older than it is for those who are younger, trust me when I say 9 times out of 10, it's not going to work out for you. We're suffering out more money towards the older generation than we are towards the younger people. We're completely ignoring the young generation like they don't exist, and we're not even trying to get them to where they need to be. The schools are dilapidated. The children themselves don't have a good future. The parents have had their chance to get to where they were supposed to be, but they chose not to make it there. When the opportunities presented itself for them to advance themselves, they chose not to do it. The youth of the past, the ones before the younger generation of today, man, they had their chance. They can't say that life was so bad for them. Man, please. You had to pay only $1 and some change for some eggs. A daggone carton of milk cost you 75 cents. Gas was either 75 cents to $1 at most. You had to only pay $75 a month for a damn studio, and $100 to $120 for a 2-bedroom. Your gas electricity ran you at most $100. $100 tops. Cable was so daggone cheap back then. All you really had to do was go get a goddamn cable box. And that cable box only ran you $75 a month. $75 a month for cable service. Now, I looked all this stuff up, and I've seen the dramatic change from yesteryear to this year. And I can tell you, those of yesteryear have always had it easier. The youth of today is being completely shuffled out of the system, and no one cares what's happening to them. We're getting tired of them rioting in the streets and picking up their picket signs Well, do something about it. Make life a better for them. Start trying to, in your community, get rec centers put up for these kids to be able to go to summer camp programs. Back in your day, there used to be summer camp programs. You used to be able to go to summer camp like it was nobody's business. If you saw a chance to go to Camp Winnetonka, you went to Camp Winnetonka. Take a look at this. There was a division between the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts. And that division was there because the Boy Scouts had different rules than the Girl Scouts did. But they were receiving the same type of treatment. Now, in society, we have where Boy Scouts have to be mixed with the Girl Scouts. But if the Girl Scouts want a separate program by themselves, they can have it. They can have it. What kind of bull crap is that? Our youth is being poisoned. And the old generation is not speaking up for them or doing anything. They're sitting on their behinds waiting for the SSI checks and waiting for that goddamn AARP to kick in. Let's save the youth and do something about these young children. Don't forget, they have to grow up eventually. You want crime in this city to go down? Save the youth. You want crime to go away? Save the youth. You want neighborhoods to not have to be watched by police all the time? Save the youth. The ones that's shooting up bang bang are the young kids who have nowhere to go. The ones who's going around stabbing and robbing people are the ones who have nowhere to go. Throwing up more police force is important. Yes, we need to crack down on things. No matter what state you're in, it's all the same story. The youth is being treated bad. People think if they move out of Maryland and go to other states, it's going to be better. Nope. The same treatment you get in Maryland is what you're going to get in Delaware. It's just Delaware is much smaller. The same treatment you got in Delaware is the same treatment you're going to get in Virginia. As a matter of fact, they're more racist down in Virginia than they are in Maryland. The same treatment you get in Virginia, you're going to get worse in D.C. Now, D.C. is real ghetto. It's not as many murders around there as it is here in Baltimore, but either way, you get the point. I remember one time I was at my church and I was talking to this young guy who I had grew up with at the church. And I was talking with him and I said, man, I just feel like there's no hope for people today. And he said, I feel you, man. I feel you. He told me how he himself had just recently had a brush-in with death. He said he was driving to get to work one day, and this young person cut him off while he was trying to make a turn. He said he went to get out the car to find out exactly what was going on with the guy, and the guy pulled a gun on him. He said that the dude looked like he was no older than 18, 19 years old. He asked the young boy, well, why you gonna pull a gun on me? I just want to know why you cut me off. And he said, just get your old ass back in the car. That little young person would have shot him dead in the streets. He said he was so scared. But he was not going to start fearing because he knew that greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. that he has a God. So, he got back in the car. The young person drove off. He said he didn't even call the cops. He just left it alone. Got to work, told his coworkers about it, and they said, "You braver than me." He said, "But I'm not going to ruin that young man's life." Because 9 times out of 10, that young man went through a rough life. And the reason why he is the way he is because no one was there for him when he needed somebody to speak up for him. Ask yourself this one question. How did it feel for you back when you were a kid with all the things that was going on with you and no one spoke up for you? That's what's going on with today's youth. They feel the exact same way. We were supposed to improve on what the ones before us could not do. But instead, we are too busy still making life easier for the ones before us when they had their chance to have a good life. They should be shuffled to the curb and start making things easier for the current generation. Because right now, these young people, and I mean anybody that's below the age of 40, it's not getting easier. It's not getting easier. By the age of 20, most people already expect to have a house, a car, and be ready to be married. They expect to have their first kid by 21. But during that time, most of those people normally have their life already set up where they're married and they already have their college degree. But what's going to happen when you're trying to do exam? It's exam day. Oh man, it's exam day. I got to get this exam done. So you're trying to get your exam finished. You need to study for it. How are you going to get that exam finished? How are you going to study for it? Older folk, back then the exams weren't that hard. There was no such thing as the SAT. There was no such thing as the ACT. There were no standardized testing. Standardized testing didn't come out until the 90s. Let me check my facts. Hey Siri, when did standardized testing first come out?
Standardized Lies, Money and Civil Rights, How Testing is Ruining Public Education was released the 1st of January 2014.
No, I'm not talking about the movie. When did standardized testing first come out?
Standardized Lies, Money.
Okay, I'm not talking about the movie. That's all she giving me. Hold on. Yo. Okay. I gotta get this open. Because she's not really understanding what I'm asking. Okay. I'm about to get it right, y'all. Give me a minute. When did first when was the first standardized test given? Right. Okay. So, I stand corrected. They had standardized testing for you to get into college in the 1920s. But the standardized testing for the rest of the schools wasn't shuffled out until the 1960s. Okay? And it became more regulated later on in the 1980s to the 1990s. Okay? The standardized tests back then were much simpler and an easier way to evaluate how pretty much you were going to get into, schools and stuff like that. It wasn't really like being acclimated for kids inside the school system. So, for example, if you were in the city school system, you didn't really have to worry about the SAT. That was mostly to get you into college. But there were no actual standardized tests in the school system itself as far as city schools and elementary schools and middle schools and stuff like that, like ACT. None of those tests were actually in the school system in the 1960s. Those were like the SAT, which more college prep test, was for those that were going on to college. It was to prepare them for college. Kids today, as early as the first grade, have to take something called the ACT. Okay? It's a test that I don't know what the heck it's for, but they have to take it. It's another type of standardized testing. And so far, that's all the city school system has done is standardized testing. And it's not proven to work. And it's not proven to do anything. It really is not. And it's not really helping these children. But the youth have to go through that. Back then, in the 1960s, you did not. You did not. Now, understand, the 60s is racist time. Okay? This is when racism was out, still at its peak. So you're telling me that when racism was at its peak and the most affluential point that it was out, they didn't have to worry about standardized testing? What in the blue balls hell? That makes no sense. How is it that during the peak of racial conformity, you telling me that standardized testing wasn't a daggone thing anybody was worrying about? But today, where racism is literally just pushed because people don't have anything else to do with themselves, you're telling me standardized testing is at its peak performance. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. When today you have more of an opportunity to not be racially profiled, unlike you did back then, during the Martin King beatings. You got to be kidding me. But yet we should continue to shuffle out money and shuffle out funds to these people who, by this point in time, have had a chance to get their lives together, but they chose not to. I'm sorry when I say this, but the youth are going to continue to suffer because we're too busy still worrying about the older generation. We need to make a more fixed income for the older generation that could be set at a bar setting and just given to them until they all eat it up and then, bow, pack them away like bad luggage. I understand I sound like, a Republican, but I'm not. What I am saying is there needs to be a fixed amount for the older generation that should be set out to be able to give them the living they need to continue to have. And then the older generation, the much younger people, be given the opportunities they need to get to where they need to go. There should be a cutoff point. I do believe that at a certain age, when you hit the age of 65, they should go ahead and terminate your employment. To my next point, some of the issues that are facing today's youth is no income coming in for their schools. The school infrastructure is terrible. The staffing is not properly trained. The previous generation before them is lackadaisical and is taking a lazy approach towards raising them. The outside world is eating them alive, and it's not really being a prosperous way of dealing with things. Let me tell you something now. Back in the day, way back, neighborhoods were not even as bad as you think it is. Okay? Neighborhoods are bad now because drugs was introduced into the neighborhoods. Now, I'm not going to get into that because I can get into a whole civil dispute between who the drugs was first pushed to, because I can tell you, it was pushed to everybody. You know, Lucy was in the sky with diamonds, and the daggone show did not say she was in the sky with diamonds singing to just blacks, because she daggone show was not. Because I can tell you now, the people who made the daggone song were some straight up Caucasian people. And the free love motherfuckers were daggone sure not black skinned. They with tallywhackers as long as a goddamn tree trunk. They were white, long-haired brunettes. They were called hippies. Look up Woodstock. Whenever you see images of Woodstock, you're not really seeing many blacks. You're not. And Woodstock was nothing but marijuana, cocaine, and LSD central. Whatever hallucinogenic drug you could take that can make you hallucinate, back then, they took it. They took it. Most people don't like to talk about their history because they don't want to go back and talk about the past. But the truth is the truth, and only the truth will set you free. History is the way it is because we decided for history to be that way. It started before us, and it can end with us. Those before can put an end towards the ways of the old by starting to try to accept new things. Technology is still even being made right now that is still being made with the older generation in mind. Nobody should be still using a goddamn rotary dial phone. Nobody should be sitting there with the big dumb corded cell phone, corded phone. No way you're going to tell me it makes sense for you to still be using a cordless house phone. Don't nobody still do that anymore. Some of the ways that existed back in the day, you notice, are dying off. That's because what was wrong and bad back then, we're trying to improve on to make things more simpler and easier for people in everyday living. I'm telling you, this is how I would have my house set up. And I'm not going to say have. I'm going to say I'm going to set my house up. Internet and cable is going to be one set thing that has nothing to do with me having a telephone. I'm not getting a house phone number. I'm getting just a cable telephone. I'm just getting a wireless router. And I'm going to get cable. I'm not getting a telephone, a house phone. Why? Because when I'm talking to you guys on right now, I have a phone. I'm paying $48.98 a month for this daggone thing. That's pretty cheap. But, hey, it make it do what it do. Okay? I'm paying out $50 a month for my daggone phone. Right? I'm paying out $50 a month for my phone. Why am I going to get a daggone phone service and get a house phone when I have a cell phone? A cell phone is much cheaper than a house phone. Here's why. All of that gets wrapped into my cable bill. You know that, right? My telephone and all that gets wrapped into my cable bill. So my cable bill, which could be $79.99 a month, instead, now it's going to skyrocket to $239.99 a month. Why? Because I got to pay for the modem. I got to pay for the modem. I got to pay for the guy to come and install it. I got to pay for the cable. I got to pay for the boxes. I got to pay for the telephone number. You know, they got to issue up money to the telephone company. So I have to pay for all that. That's why $239.99 was going to jump up to. Why? Hey, somebody got to cover that. Now tell me, why would I go and do something as stupid as to do that when I can just keep me a cell phone that only cost me $48.98 almost by the end of the month? Who ain't got $50 to spare? $50 is better than paying out $239.99. I add that on and keep my cell phone. And if ever my cable go out, because let's say they're doing maintenance in the neighborhood, and the cable goes out for a little bit, or the router's not working. Now I ain't got no house phone to contact nobody. Well, I got to call 911. I got to call 911. You can't even make emergency calls on it. Nope, you did. That happens. Guess what? I still got internet, because guess what? I can get on my phone. I can get on my phone. There are people today who are doing something so stupid as to be paying two separate bills. This is idiotic. You paying a separate bill for your internet and paying a separate bill for your cable. Oh. Boo-boo. Boo-boo, why? Why are you doing this to yourself? So, if your cable not working, you still got internet. You're going to be happy with that. I got internet, so I'm cool with that. Okay. But then, what's to happen if you don't have enough money to pay for the cable and the daggone internet? Cable and the internet. Since they're two separate bills. If you have enough to pay for your cable, you have enough to pay for your internet. I'm not making this stuff up, people. I'm just telling it like it is.
Boom, boom, boom.
We need to set the bar and lead by example for today's youth. We need to be there for the youth of today and show them that there's a better way in life besides picking up a gun and smoking the best joint that you've ever had in weeks. We need to teach these young people that going out and robbing somebody is not the only way to do things. We need to give them a fair chance at life. We were given fair chances. They should be given the same. Why is it today a young person Why is it today a young person can try to get into doing sports and become an athlete, but an older person would easily be given the job before that young dude? And I dare some of you to disagree and say, well, the young people are taking over the sports. I'm going to tell you why. It's because, one, the older people, there are some smart older people who are getting that young person in there. Things have to change. And they need to change for the better. Because right now, things are looking pretty bleak for these young kids. And I'm ashamed, as a person who is 30 years old. I fear for them. I fear for you, Chris. I fear for you. I fear for you, Noah. Years from now, whatever y'all want to do in life won't matter. Because the older generation is going to continue to suck up the bulk of the income and not be willing to give any of it back. My son told me one day he wanted to play baseball. That's a good sport. It's guaranteed money. But in order for him to get there to play baseball, he has to be given a fair enough chance to be able to get there. That don't seem like society gonna do that. He's an inner city youth. Like all the rest of these inner city youth. And the only direction that the inner city youth is going in is either in a ditch, dead somewhere, in a crack house strung out on drugs, or in jail. Yeah, you right. You almost there.
Yep, I'm almost there.
And you got to keep pushing. You got to keep pushing. I'm not talking about your height, son. I'm not talking about your height. I'm not talking about your height. I'm talking about skill-wise, mentally. You have a long way to go. And the only way you're going to be able to get there is if you keep pushing yourself to be able to stay smart and stay prepared. And as your father, I know I'm going to do what I have to do to make sure that you get there. It's not going to be easy. Because society wants to see you fail. If every single last young person on this earth just literally stopped trying, the government would take all the money that they're supposedly giving these young people, which they're not giving them much, and they will push it right to the older class and the older generation. And guess what? They're going to eat it up. These people are close to death. These people are ready to go over the edge. I'm sorry when I say this, people, but somebody's got to push them. Somebody's got to push them. I propose that at age 50, a certain amount of money be given to you for you to have a living on for the rest of your life. As soon as you hit the age of 50, the government takes a big, huge monetary package of money and gives it out to you, and you live your life off of that. They look at your skill set and give you a already prepared part-time job to keep that money coming in. And at the lowest amount of hours that you should be able to work is 20 hours a week. And trust me, with already having that money and already working, those people would be able to keep a good living. A good living. Set them and their spouse up. If they're married, give them a spousal package. A spousal package that would include an amount together that both of them will be given to use between each other. To be able to get them where they need to be. Give them the ability to choose between 3 life insurance packets. Set it all up for them. I really do hate how we expect people to be adults today, because some of the adults of today are not adult in the mind. Some of the adults today want to go back to being kids because they weren't prepared for life themselves. They weren't ready to face life. And it's the generation before them that didn't do what they were supposed to do. It's a vicious cycle. Young people want to be heard. Young people want to be loved. Young people want to be young. Gone are the days when a child could go outside to the playground and play. Gone are the days when you could take your child out there and slide them down the sliding board. Gone are the days when you could take your child to a public pool and let them go swimming without seeing somebody doing it. Gone are the days when you could just take your kids out places and let them be kids. Gone are the days you could sit out on your front porch and watch your child run around the yard. Now instead, these kids are hopping on dirt bikes. They breaking into people's houses. They going and stealing stuff in stores. They're already fornicating as young as 10 years old. Man, there's still a chance to save our youth, people. There's still a chance. Let's stop worrying about the Robert Kellys and let's stop worrying about the Gayle Kings. They all had their chance. R. Kelly, Gayle King. They had their chance. Both of them older, they had that success. Forget about them. Stop worrying about the Denzel Washingtons and the Jennifer Anistons. Forget all them old people. Let's focus our attention on the youth. I thought preparing life for tomorrow was what we were supposed to be doing in the first place. Why call them the future if you killing the future before it even gets to start? Come on, people. Wake up.